Now available from Arrow Video on 4K, UHD, HDR, Blu-ray is Hideo Nakata's 2002 Japanese horror classic Dark Water. You may have heard of Dark Water. It has been released previously on Blu-ray by Arrow, and it was remade in America during that period of time post they remade The Ring, and then it was this wave of remakes of Japanese horror films, J-horror films as it were. Jennifer Connelly starred in the US remake of Dark Water, but this is the original. This is the Japanese Dark Water with Hitomi Kuroki and Ryo Kanno. It's in Japanese with English subtitles. This was a 2023 4K digital restoration, so this is a pretty fresh new 4K digital presentation of this movie, and this is like a favorite of mine. This is a movie that I first heard about back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I was going to Boston's Chinatown a lot because I was a huge fan of martial arts Hong Kong movies, and I found that a lot of the stores there carried DVDs and VCDs at the time, and you could get all kinds of stuff that wasn't just Hong Kong stuff. They carried a lot of European films and Japanese films and Korean films that had not yet found release or distributors in America, and this was one of them. I found this thing called Dark Water, and it looked scary, and boy was it. So I think I've owned this on VCD, DVD, Blu-ray, and now 4K, and boy is it worth it. So this is a film that's very, very unsettling. Basic story here, I'm not going to tell you the whole story. Basic story here is single mother and her young daughter move into a fairly rundown apartment building, and they're in the middle of a contentious divorce. Not the daughter, but the mother and the father, contentious divorce, and things are not all well in this apartment building. Just strange things. They think people see things out of the corner of their eye. There's this weird wet spot in the ceiling that's dripping from the apartment above. And there is talk of a young girl who used to live in that apartment building that is missing and nobody has seen her. So that's all the story I'm going to tell you. But let me just say this. And this is what I said when I first saw this movie, golly gosh, 22 years ago. It's a movie that will make you afraid of moisture. It's effective. It's the man who gave us The Ring not long after The Ring. Nakata knows how to make a scary movie, and it has a lot of the beats. It has a lot of the isms of J-horror, of Japanese horror of the era, but it's incredibly atmospheric. There are some shocker moments that will like make your blood run cold and your hair stand up on your arm, which I think mine just did thinking about one of the moments. So great horror movie, great Japanese horror movie. And as I said, it's in Japanese with English subtitles, but boy, the terror does the talking for most of the movie. So not going to talk too much more about it than that, other than it's just incredibly well made. So what are the extras? If you have had this movie before, you're getting it for the 4K upgrade. It looks great. And this is a movie too that even in some of the extras, they show clips from the film that were not the restoration from like the earlier maybe Blu-ray or DVD release. And you can see there's a lot less detail in those earlier editions than this one. So I do appreciate it because it is it's not like over dark like movies are now, but it traffics in grays and dark greens and the color of moss and dampness and mold, basically. So it's not inky black like too many movies are now, but it's a little on the darker side. So this new transfer really brings out a lot of detail that wasn't there before. Not in a bad way, but it just sharpens up the image in a way that was very pleasing to my eye, let's say. A lot of times I'll watch a 4K version of a movie and I'll be like, yeah, it looks as good as a Blu-ray to me, but this one did look pretty good. So special features, I believe almost all of these are from the original 2016 Arrow Blu-ray release, as well as older archival material. You get Hideo Nakata, Ghosts, Rings, and Water, an interview that's 26 minutes long. You get Koji Suzuki, Family Terrors. It's an interview with the author of the book or the story that the movie was based on. That's 20 minutes. You get Junichiro Hayashi, Visualizing Horror. It's the director of photography on the film, talking about his collaborations with the director of this movie. That's 19 minutes. So these are all typical of Arrow. Sometimes you get a long list of extras and you're like, oh, look at all these extras, and they're all like 3 minutes, and 20 minutes, you're done with them all. Arrow, you want to get comfortable before you go through all the extras, or you want to take it over time because they're usually 16 to 20 minutes tends to be the standard length for any of these pieces. We have making of featurette. It's vintage 4x3 from when the film came out, and it's 16 minutes long. It's behind the scenes footage, which and this is very cool, with occasional picture-in-picture in the corner that shows you the shot in the final film as you're seeing that shot be filmed on video. And that was kind of, it's neat to see those shots from like a different perspective, where it can be this terrifying, really dramatic moment on film, but in real life you see the crew and you see everything else that's going on. It's an interesting fantasy versus reality kind of experience. You have Hitomi Kuroki, interview that's 8 minutes, and she was the lead actress in the film. That's 4x3 standard def vintage. You get Asami Mizukawa interview. That's also vintage 4x3. She played the teenage version of the daughter. So throughout the film, you see the daughter, and then toward the end, you see the teenage version. This is an interview with her, and it's really interesting. It's some video footage of her audition and chatting like right after she was told she got the role, and then an on-set interview that's 5 minutes. There is a Shikao Suga interview. That's a vintage interview with the musician and the composer who did the end theme, which is sort of like a pop tune for the movie. That's again 4x3 standard def. That's 3 minutes. You get a 1.5-minute trailer. You get a 37-second teaser, and you get TV spots that run 49 seconds, and those are 4x3 letterbox. It's all typical of what video was on like Japanese TV basically in 2002. So if you already have this, whether you want to upgrade or not is whether you have a 4K player, whether you have a 4K TV, but if you're someone like me who does have that stuff and is interested in getting a better looking copy of the movie with the extras that were on the previous edition, and I always appreciate when they port the extras over, so it's not like a new version comes out, but you need to keep the old one for some kind of extra that's still on there. This will let you replace that. On 4K UHD HDR from Arrow Home Video is 2002's Japanese horror, dare I say classic, Dark Water.